What's going on, everybody? It's the /Ascend Hyperion here, bringing you an off-the-cuff candid video about my Destiny meets Halo Spartan model. That's right, I'm just going to talk to you guys a little casually, off the cuff, about this project in particular, what went into it, my motivations, and how I did it, basically. Now, quickly, if you are watching this and you've only ever watched my YouTube content, you don't know that I actually make Halo-related art using Blender 3D. I post these things on my Twitter and my Instagram, so if you haven't followed me in those places yet, you've missed out on a whole lot of content from me. You should probably head over there and drop a follow. Other way around, if you're coming here from Twitter or Instagram and you haven't seen anything on my YouTube, you should drop a sub, because I post content here as well, and my work and my passion get split between these two mediums, so hopefully you guys will be willing to support me on both ends. Without too much messing around, let's go ahead and talk about what's going on here. So this is my Halo meets Destiny Spartan model. The primary inspiration was taking a Titan and making him into a Spartan. I looked at a lot of concept art to do this. I was a big Destiny fan, Destiny 1. I did not like Destiny 2 at all. We'll save that discussion for a different day. But Destiny 1 really has a precious place in my heart. I really enjoyed that game and its art direction a lot. So what we're looking at here is my solid view 3D model of the Spartan. And if I zoom out, what I've got around him is the different components of what became the Guardian Type 0 armor set. We're just going to kind of run through them, and I'm going to break the immersion for you guys a bit. So earlier in the video, I talked over some of the renders and just kind of gave my little 2 cents about my thoughts of what I did and why. But here, I'm going to potentially damage your perception of this project by showing you where the pieces come from. So if you don't want that, then I don't know, you might want to skedaddle or close your ears. But yeah, we're kind of going to break it down. I'll go ahead and switch to look dev mode so we can see colors and textures. So really quick, we'll just get a little view of our guy here. And you can just kind of take in his aesthetic and appeal, and I'll explain the different components and why I used them as we go through. Some of them are more obvious than others. So over here I've got the Nightfall set. Very clearly, I took the belt from the Nightfall set and used that for the belt mark. I took the lower leg pieces and moved those over there, and that's about it from the Nightfall set. But this is big. I mean, this is the only thing in Halo 5 that has a belt-esque anything, and it worked very well for what I was trying to do with it. Up here is the Recluse armor. From Recluse, I took 2 things. So the first is the shoulder pads, and if you look on here, they're kind of raised up. They're on these little stilt things that push them off the shoulder, off the upper arm more so. I took those and I tucked them into the bottom of the pauldrons of the security armor, and I made changes to the security armor as well, and I'll show that. But that's kind of where the Recluse shoulder pads went. And I had motives for doing that. I didn't just do it for the hell of doing it. I also took the boots from the Recluse set and strapped them on this guy because I just like the shape of them. If we come up to the security armor, so clearly I took the shoulders. The security armor has this little lip to it, and that's cool and all, but it wasn't necessarily what I was looking for in this. They've also got these little latch attachments here. So all I did was separate the rounder bit off the security shoulder and then take those latches off. And so that became like the shoulder guard, and just slotted the Recluse beneath it. And it changed the shape up. It made them, like, they're not blocky. They're not just bulky for the sake of being bulky. But they don't thin out as much as they do when it's just security. When they got this tongue, they kind of maintain some of that aggressive look. So that was the motive there. You look up, and this is probably one of the more obvious carryovers. This is the Icarus armor set. Very clearly, the torso for the Icarus armor became the primary torso piece for Guardian Type 0, with some changes. The big one being I took the thrusters off the back, and I won't spend too much time on this. I just want to point it out to anybody who doesn't know. a lot of the armor in Halo 5 is over designed, and it's cool to see, especially in a 3D program, how much work went into the armor. But if I pull this up, these thrusters are like compartmentalized things that they're really detailed and intricate and have a lot of stuff to them. Just for what I was doing here, they weren't necessary, so I cut them off and moved the torso down, and it kind of became my primary stay piece there. Going around the circle here, this is the Reaper armor set. The only thing I took from here was the forearm guards. And why I chose these over like basically anything else is that in Destiny, and a lot of the concept art, the forearm armor kind of sits on top of the arm and on the bottom as two separate pieces, like it's been strapped on. And this goes for all the armor in Destiny. The more I looked at the concept art, the more I noticed that, unlike in Halo, where if you look at, for example, security here, it's very clear that to get this on and off, you need a machine, or you need assistance, or you need a team of somebody, technicians, or anybody. This can't be taken off whenever you want. This is something that's on, affixed to the user. That's not the case in Destiny. A lot of it is, here's my shoulder piece, and you can very visibly see the bicep strap, or this is my leg armor, and you can see where it's tied around by my knee. The armor is imposing, and it looks, professional and good, but it's also very obvious that the Guardians, or maybe just like a partner, puts it on and off of the user. So I was just looking for armor pieces that had that separation, and in Halo 5 a lot of them don't. Like this is one piece that was kind of separated but not, and this is one piece, that's one piece. So I eventually settled on the Reaper forearms. They complemented the combined security shoulder pad very nicely, so that's how we ended up there. The Helioscrill set, I used the upper leg armor and the knee guards. Now, it was mostly for the upper leg armor, because you'll notice these little lips here on the top that jut outward. This was a big reoccurring theme for the Titan armor in Destiny, especially in the early concept art. I noticed that the leg armor had all these juts at the top. I think it's so, if you can imagine you're sprinting, you can still raise your leg up without colliding. Like if you look at the Seeker armor, it kind of looks like it would collide with your pelvis if you were maybe like bending a certain direction, but the lips here allow you to bend forward further potentially, I guess. So I liked that, and then we talked earlier about the strapping thing, and the armor has to look like it's on top of something else. This plays into that. It covered that base greatly, and you can you see it reflected down here. So it worked out for me very nicely. Over here is the Stalker chest piece. What I used from here was the torso, or not the torso, but the abdomen guard right there. And that's because if you look at the Icarus set, its abdomen guard is just these two triangles, and it looked really skimp. With just the chest element to it. So I was kind of searching for an abdomen guard on a different armor set that kind of fit the bill, and then the Stalker one really hit it. I think it looks really nice. If you look at it, it makes the chest look very strong, and it's not really a quantifiable thing, it's just kind of a feeling where his chest is kind of puffed out and he looks intimidating. So I liked how it bridged that gap there. And then, so this is the kind of the last bit, and it's probably my favorite bit. This is the Seeker armor set. And I talked earlier about how, the armor sits on top of everything. In Destiny, the Titans, they're basically wearing just clothing beneath their armor. And, the clothing can be stuff like fatigues or like tactical stuff, but it's still just clothes. A lot of the time, especially. So what I needed was a way to break up the uniformity of the tech suit in Halo 5, because the tech suit's just one piece, and they don't really have tech suits in Destiny, or at least in the concept art, they did not. So I searched and I searched and I searched, and I remember that the Seeker armor had this weird little mesh vest beneath the armor. So I went in and I I separated it. If you want to see what that looks like, I just went in and I separated it out, and I was like, wow, this looks pretty cool. I like that. So I went ahead and I slotted it in, and I was like, wow, this really, I mean, for me, it's one of those small details. If I can find his rig, we're gonna just kind of throw him to a T pose for a second. It's just one of those things that I think really sells it. It kind of turns all these loosely connected parts into one uniform piece. The belt helps mask the seam between the tech suit and the shirt, making the tech suit seem like more of a pant material, the best it can be. It was a godsend find, and I really enjoyed seeing it incorporated in something like this. It has cool geometry too. It even comes up on the neck a little bit. So shout out to the Seeker armor set. I didn't think I'd ever have any good use for it, but it came in handy. And that pretty much goes through all the stuff I pulled from Halo 5. You'll notice the Titan mark here. This is made by me. Not to pat myself on the back. I don't really do a lot of asset creation myself. This is something really simple. This is just a rectangular mesh with a cloth simulation. I went in and I took a free to use cloth texture and I put my own little symbology on it here with the Cinder helmet, and just used UV unwrapping to match it up to make it look like this. So nothing too crazy. I just, again, Titan marks are an essential for the character, and I think it looks nice. Maybe not an exotic or anything like that, but I think it sells it. The other thing that no one has asked me about, at least at the time of me recording this video, no one's asked me about the gun. I have a little special gun that I put together for this here. If I can pull them out, hopefully I just didn't mess with the right one here. This is a little custom gun I put together while I was kit bashing, because I couldn't really find any Destiny gun assets just readily available. And I still wanted to have it keep that Halo vibe. And I was kit bashing anyways, and I was like, well, let's go ahead and put a BR and an AR together and see what we get. I don't have a special name for this yet. I think it's just called the ABR. Yeah. Which I'll probably keep that name, ABR. But it's just kind of quirky looking to me. I like it. It's, I'm sure most people will look at me like that's corny. You put a BR on top of an AR, blah, blah, blah. But it's got a neat little look. I'm biased because I put it together, but I'm sure plenty of people have had the idea before. And that pretty much brings us through the armor. The helmet is just the orbital helmet. I spent some time trying to bash two helmets together to get something more unique, and it just wasn't working. It seemed way too forced. The geometry was all over the place. And then I remembered that Destiny 2, unfortunately, Destiny 2, had that starting Titan helmet is a lot like Orbital. It's actually very similar. So I was like, oh, why not? The only difference, anything I can be credited for changing, is that instead of using the, how do I explain easily to people who don't know? So normally, if you guys look over here, this is what's called material nodes. These control what the mesh, what the objects end up looking like. So like when you guys think of textures, this is what really controls it, is this stuff. So like there's different ones for the different armors that kind of follow the same pattern. Now normally for a visor you would have something else, because this material setup is for armor, like a metally plastic type thing. So a visor is glass and has reflections, so it would need a different setup. All I did is make some changes to the armor material, because in Destiny they don't really use glass on their visors. At least in the portrayal of the armor, it's always really flat colors, very minimal reflection, implying very thick opaqueness, very dense material. So all I did was just kind of maintain the armor-esque quality and add a slight, I just changed the reflective quality to it. It turned out pretty well, I'd say. I think it got the job done. You'll notice the lack of the hexagonal pattern, I think, is also part of what helps sells it. But that brings us through the armor. You guys are seeing this is an HDRI. This is what helps control. This is what I used for the lighting on the running shot, was this HDRI with like an artificial sun as well, but this was part of it for the sky. But yeah, that's just a little look into my program itself to see what it looks like. And what I'll do next is I'll go ahead and I'll talk about some of the renders. So, Guardian Type 0, like I said, Titan. And what I had noticed in a lot of the Destiny 1 concept art is that when it came to Titans, it wasn't about them being big and bulky and round and just massive, like how it became in Destiny 2. It was about them looking strong, physically fit. I talk sometimes about geometry, a lot about geometry. A lot of things in design you can boil down to geometry. If I take away the colors, if I take away the detail, if I take away the whatever, what is the overall shape of the object? If you look at concept art Titans, and if you look at my Titan here, my Spartan Titan, strip everything away. Imagine just a shape. He would look like a very fit man. Not some big like monster, but he's got big shoulders, big biceps. He's strong. He's muscly. His chest is puffed out. That's what I was going for. So for me personally, I hit that mark where I was like, he doesn't look big. He looks strong. So that was a cool little sticking point for me at the end of the project. I felt like I had accomplished that for sure. These are some high quality Cycles renders too. If anybody doesn't know about that, these renders were what I posted online and stuff. So just kind of scrolling through, and I did some shots that mimic the armor screens in Destiny, just without the text. So a little close-up of the armor piece itself, and you can really see, credit has to be given to the designers of the armor in Halo 5, because this is detail they put in that, the game doesn't get the chance to portray. The game does not show you how detailed some of this stuff is. I did not edit these textures. This is just what it looks like. So up close in a render like this, you can really see it. And I talked about the chest geometry, and I'm a big fan of how this turned out, to say the least. And look at the shoulders. There's some clipping here. Anybody who plays Destiny knows that Bungie does not care about clipping. They will make armor just egregiously huge, and it'll be running through everything, and they just do not care. So I took some liberty myself, and I was like, whatever. If it clips, it is what it is. If it clips, so there, and then a little close up of the Ascend Hyperion mark here. I've been trying to think of a clever name for it over the duration of this video. For when I finally got to this part, I'd have something to say, but maybe if you guys can think of a fancy Destiny name for this Titan mark, by all means, you should share it. And then my little video spin around of maybe I don't know if I can zoom in, no. But yeah, this is just a little show of what it looks like. Maybe I think I have the video in this folder. Yeah, here we go. Let's go ahead and play. And I don't know if this will loop on its own. Yeah, here we go. But yeah, so this is what the armor looks like. This is an Eevee. I talked a little bit about like rendering engines in Blender. Eevee is a different render engine. It's a hell of a lot faster than Cycles. So like I could have rendered this type of thing in Cycles. It would have taken hours. In Eevee, like I rendered this in like maybe 3 minutes for 300 frames or something like that. So small soapbox about differences, but this is just another 360. Although you guys have been looking at it in 3D the whole time. That pretty much brings me to the end of talking about this project. I had a lot of fun doing it. It was a spur of the moment thing, but it combines, two of my favorite aesthetics. I was a huge fan of Destiny 1's early aesthetic. And to be able to carry that to Halo in a way that is identifiable to people and enjoyable, I mean, that's big for me. But that pretty much is the end of what I gotta say. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe for more content. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter if you want to see more stuff like this first, or suggest new projects to me. I would say something written here, but I'm kind of just speaking off the cuff. Thanks guys for watching, and take it easy.